All right, guys, welcome back to Within Tolerance. This is episode 73, and this one's going to be a little out of their norm. Payton's off prepping for Black Friday and grinding hard, and so today we're going to have Jake Yates from Yates Precision co-host and guest spot on the podcast. So welcome, Jake, and thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully Peyton's off, making lots of progress, doing exactly what I should be doing. So I'm happy to fill in and not do that stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt a little bad reaching out last minute and being like, "Hey, do you want to not make parts and come talk to me for a little
I
while?"
yeah, I got nothing else going on over here, so don't worry about it.
Well, now you've
Happy to
got,
fill in. Yep.
yeah, we definitely appreciate it. Um, so a lot has changed since the last time we talked. You've got some new machinery. You guys are running like crazy. We had your wonderful wife on recently, and she was telling, starting to transition into working in the shop. So why don't you give us all the lowdown on the machinery you've acquired since the last time you've been on the show, and we can kind of, I got a lot of questions to pick your brain about, machine wise. So
Yeah, sounds good. So I told her I was filling in today, and she got instantly nervous because when she was on with you guys, she shared all of my deep dark blacksmithing ring making secrets. So she was a little nervous, but I told her I'd skip over little black secrets at least this time. So um, yeah, so since the last time, I think I was probably maybe your second guest on this podcast, maybe behind Danny. I was one of the early ones. I
yeah.
know that. Henry Holsters I think was on before me as well too. So but anyways, yeah. So since the last time we spoke, we bought a new Haas VF2 SS. We got it up and running early in September, and it's now in full out production mode. It's strictly making razor components. So we have it tooled up with a fourth axis, the HRT 160, and it has the chick work holding four-sided tombstone. So it's a production machine, and when it's up and running, it runs probably 23 hours a day. So it's so far so good. We've been able to burn through some razor components and get work on getting some stuff back in stock for Black Friday. So yeah, that's been a game changer for sure.
Well, and I don't think you even had the lathe last time we talked. You were just talking about possibly getting a
Oh
lathe.
yeah, you're right. I forgot about that
Um,
guy. Yeah, yeah, we have a lathe too. No, yeah. So this would have been, I think, beginning of this chaotic year that we've had so far. We purchased the Mazak QT10 lathe. I actually purchased that off of my full-time employer. So it was, I mean, it's a fantastic machine. Before I got it, it had never had coolant in it. The coolant pump had never been on. It had only ever cut plastic. So for a 1996 machine, I mean, it's about as mint as you can get for that year. Um, so that has also been, I mean, it paid for itself probably within the first week, I would say. And
well, and this might be the first time ever in the history of machine tools that only cut plastic in the sales document actually means only cut plastic.
yes, I can actually vouch for that because I know its entire history. So it has only ever cut plastic. Um, so yeah, I mean, we had the coolant pan, the conveyor, and the coolant pump stored upstairs in a mezzanine at Perryman, and it had never been installed, never been run. So and it had been treated pretty good too. So it's a nice machine. It has a couple, a couple, I guess, short sights if you could call them that. I can't really complain because I mean it's a great machine, but it's only a single spindle, no tailstock, anything like that. So I'm pretty limited when it comes to your length to diameter ratio. So I got to get a little creative when I'm making razor handles on it. I actually do a couple manual pulls and hide the blends a little bit. So I got to get creative with the long skinny parts, but that machine has actually probably run 90% job shop stuff. And it's been great for that. And that's the machine that Ashley runs the most while I'm at work. So I usually try to get it set up and then get her up and running, and she'll run it for 5 or 6 hours, a couple days a week, which really helps. Free labor is always good. So, and then
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I guess, and then recently we switched to running oil on that machine, and I blame Easton for that. So Moria Manufacturing. He and I were talking for a while, and he was saying he was running oil in his, and then he sent me pictures to rub in his incredible finishes and tool life he was getting. And so I made the switch too, and so far I'm extremely happy. I did. Been running it for probably a week and a half now, maybe 2 weeks, running oil. And I mean, the finishes you get in stainless with oil versus coolant is pretty incredible. So now I'm contemplating switching the Haas over to oil at some point. So now I've opened up a can of worms here. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I always say like oil is great for the machinery side of it and sucks for the people side of it.
Yeah.
Like,
So I bought like a
chips stick to it and stick to the fixture and all that, but
yeah.
like, the machines will never rust on you and they love it and, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean the inside of the machine looks already a ton better. You're essentially lubricating it the entire time. It's a pretty low viscosity oil. It's called Swiss Cut 65. So it's not like a thick oil. So I mean it's actually pretty light. I haven't noticed too much sticking to it. But yeah, we had to purchase a couple box of just shop rags and keep with you. And I got one shirt that I dedicate to running the lathe now because I destroyed it in like the first 6 seconds that I was running it with oil. I mean, it was. Yeah, I had the door open, the chuck was spinning slowly. I turned the coolant on, and it was just like oil all over me instantly. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! Great start." So, but other than that, I mean,
Yeah, you immediately feel like a
yeah,
grease ball.
yeah, it's not too bad. Now, my last full time job, we ran sinker EDMs, and those are disgusting. So I'm kind of used to some grossness. This is nowhere near as bad as running like a RAM EDM machine by any means. So it's not too bad. We try to keep it contained over to the lathe area and try not to get everything oily. So far, so good though. But I think the trade off and the finishes you get, the tool life you get, I think it's worth it for sure. So. So yeah, we got the lathe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's been a great machine. And then, like I said, in September we got the Haas. We picked up a new blast cabinet probably a month or so ago now. We were just running that standard benchtop Harbor Freight, which for the money was good. But I think the last time we talked, someone, I think maybe Brandon Machine Shop Outlaw, asked what would my upgrades be, and that was one of them on my list. So I finally pulled the trigger on a good blast cabinet. So we got a Scat blast cabinet, which they're made in America. They're made over in Ohio. So we went over and picked that up, and that's made a huge difference because we were increasing throughput on the Haas. All of our razors that get the stonewash finish have to go through the blast cabinet. So we were piling parts up at the old blast cabinet. So that was a big quality of life improvement for sure. Not other than that, just some odds and ends things, but definitely the Haas is the biggest new purchase for us, and definitely the scariest as well.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about that decision. What led you to Haas? What led you to the specific machine you bought? What went on in that decision process? Because I was definitely, I know last time we had talked, you were really unsure of what machine tool you were going to go with and what brand and what size and all that stuff. So why don't you run down, how you came to where you are now?
Yeah, so beginning of this year, after we purchased the lathe, we started to look at it. At that point, IMTS was still a go, so we thought, we'd start to do some research, and then once we got to IMTS, really dig into it and try to make a purchase sometime in 2020. Well, then everything just kind of went out the window in 2020. IMTS got canceled, and then Haas started with their patented ridiculous deals, and it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit of a rash decision. I mean, I had thought the VF2SS was the machine for me. Actually, I was looking at just a regular VF2, and then this was probably June 28th, 29th. I called our local HFO, my sales rep, and I just wanted to see what they had going on. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we have this awesome deal running right now." Of course, they always have an awesome deal running. But anyways, I was like, "All right, yeah, what do you got?" And he told me, and it was pretty much you buy the machine, you get the rotary for free at the end of the day. I was like, oh, that is a great deal. And, how long's that running for? He's like, oh, it ends tomorrow. I'm like, all right. So I have I have one day to, secure some financing, get an answer to you, convince my wife it's the right decision. I was like, all right, well, let me get back to you. So I managed to make all that happen. It may sound rushed, but like I said, we had been going over the numbers for a while, and we needed to increase our throughput. We were seeing way more razor orders as well as job shop stuff, and only having one mill spindle was killing us. So, yeah, that decision was pretty much made in a day, and so far it was the absolute right decision. And you know, there are some things you can say about Haas for sure, but as far as the customer service has gone through them, the training, their willingness to work with me on, holding my machine for a little bit, because I had to refinish half. I mean, half the shop wasn't finished, so I had to finish half the shop in a matter of a month essentially. Um, they've been great, and so far the machine's been great as well. And I figured at that point, if I'm gonna buy the machine, buy the rotary, it needs to be a production machine. So then I contacted Check Work Holding, which is actually they're only about 45 minutes from me. So I contacted our sales rep there, talked to him about possible tombstone. They have a package that's meant specifically for that HRT 160 that comes with the subplates, the riser, the A-frame, the tombstone, which the tombstone consists of 4 double station vices. So I was like, all right, let's do that too. So I tacked that on. And then with all that, of course, you always need more power. I live in the sticks. I don't have 3-phase. So then I had to contact American Rotary. Had to upgrade my phase converter from a 20 horsepower to a 60 horsepower. So a lot of stars had to align in a very short amount of time. But I will say, at least I'm not still running my Haas off of a generator to refab.
Shots fired. Drew, we're looking at you.
I was just talking to him probably an hour ago. He had just posted something saying he's making progress on his 3-phase. I'm like, dude, you're still running that thing off a generator? He's like, yeah, it's been 4 months. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brutal.
I gotta give it to him though. Like that's an impressive feat. Like it really shows that you can kind of have a machine shop anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. And imagine his profit margins after he gets hooked up with 3-phase. If he was making money before by renting that generator, man, he's going to be crushing. And it seems like they're doing really well out there. So he and Sarah are good people. So I like talking to them. And but yeah, I'm happy to hear he may finally get hooked up with his 3-phase power. But that's a long time to rent a generator. I bet his rental company is going to be sad here in about a month.
Yeah. Well, and you guys bought your Haas's at like near about the same time, because I remember I think Payton had reached out to you or Drew and was like, "Oh, I heard you got a Haas," just like as a joke, and then you were like, "Don't tell anybody." How'd you know?
Yeah, I think he meant to. Yeah, I think he meant to reach out to Drew and accidentally messaged me or something, and it was literally like the day I signed the papers. I'm like, dude, how did you know this? And he's like, oh, whoops, that wasn't the right person, but sweet. I was like, oh, well, I guess you know now. Yeah, that was strange how that happened, but so yeah.
So let's talk razor production on the Haas. How's that going? What was your strategy kind of setting everything up? And like I noticed it looks like you run more op ones than you do op twos. Is there a reason for that? Like what's your whole strategy going forward with that?
Yeah, so we do currently run more op ones than op two, and that was just a quick and dirty way to get me up and running. Ideally I'd like to run equal amounts because it just makes sense. But the op2 work holding is a little bit tricky on these small components, especially the top cap. So on op2, I'm just using the dual station vise to clamp just how I have on the Mori. So long term, I need to build a little bit more complicated dedicated fixturing. But for now, this kind of gets us by. Now at the end, we end up running a bunch of cycles of only op2 because I can get 24 first operations and 8 second operations on that tombstone. So the piece flow is a little off, but to get me up and running and to get me making parts, it's working. But long term, we're gonna even that up. So Um, and my process has kind of just scaled up from day one. On the Mori, I think I started by doing 1 or 2 piece flow. And then I moved to 8 piece flow on the Mori, and now I'm up to 24 pieces and 8 op 2s. But I always wanted to be able to control which station runs, which operation runs, and I wanted that to all be pretty, straightforward because I still have my dad running machines out here. Ashley's running machines, so I don't want them to have to get into the offset page or get into loading new programs. So I've been working with our Autodesk rep to develop, and I think we're pretty much there now. It posts straight out of Fusion. It posts a master program and then all the tools as individual sub programs. And each station has a G154P number. I can turn the each side of the tombstone on and off, and then on each side I can turn each individual station on and off, all by macros in the heading. So it's taken a little bit to get up and running, but it's pretty much there now, and it makes things nice and easy. Couple that with probing and tool breakage detection, we're like light years ahead of where we were just a couple months ago.
That's killer. That sounds like quite the program and quite the post. That's super impressive.
Yeah, so this is the Autodesk guy that I've been friends with for quite some time, Brian Denola. He's a good dude, and he's a wizard when it comes to posts and programming. So he's been a huge help. So yeah, it literally posts right out of Fusion. It automatically divides them. So your main program comes out. Um, Whenever you go to post, you can select what P number you want to start on. So if I want to start on G154P1 and then I want to end on G154P12, I just put 1 and 12 in the little the user entries on the right hand side when you go to post, and then I can pick what subprogram number I want to start at. So if I want my first tool to start at subprogram 9000, I put 9000 in there. So T1 posts subprogram 09000, T2 is 09001, 9002, and so on. And then the main program automatically matches, and you can, like I said, you can control pretty much anything you want to do just by changing a couple variables from 0 to 1 or vice versa.
That's awesome. That when you said hit the ground running, you meant like you really hit the ground running and did it right from the beginning. That's awesome. I know there's a lot of people that would be super stressed about just getting the machine running, and it kind of shortcut, like me included. I would shortcut just to get parts out the door. Whereas it sounds like you really at least took the time by now to really get your process dialed. So that's great for you.
Yeah, I didn't as much as I wanted to just, and to be honest, the first probably 2 or 3 runs, I was just posting using Fusion's built-in iteration where you can pick how many work offsets you want to post out while Brian was finishing up the post, and he and I were going back and forth and making modifications. But I definitely wanted to get that part established right out of the gate, because once you get that established, everything else is kind of easy. And then once you can trust your post processor, everything else, from proving out new parts to posting new programs. I mean, I don't have to. I can set it up for a 20-hour production run, and with relatively little risk. So I wanted to get that knocked out, and it was stressful because I knew I had to be making parts. With as Payton has said in prior podcasts, Black Friday, as much as I used to hate it, it is a big deal whenever you sell your own products. So we're trying to get everything back in stock for that. I was under a time crunch. I got job shop stuff, so it was a stressful time for sure. But I'm glad I took the time and got all that set up.
Yeah, for sure. So how long does a full four side load up run for? 20 hours? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, about 20. The top caps run a little bit longer than the base plates. Top caps were right around 20 hours, and I think a full cycle of base plates was about 18 hours.
Oh man, that's killer. Like talk about machine uptime.
Yeah, it's it's nice knowing that, like, when I walk out of the shop at 11:30 or midnight or whenever I leave and start it up, that it's going to run all night and most of the next day, and then by the time I get home I'll load it back up and kind of keep rolling. So, and that frees me up to then run parts on the Mori. So we run, razor components on the Mori still, a lot of job shop stuff on the Mori. So it's nice just looking over and seeing the Haas run while I have time to deal with the other two machines.
Yeah, totally. So in setting up the Haas, well, I guess let's take a step back. Besides probing and tool setting, what are the options on your Haas? It's an SS, so probing, tool setting. What else do you have? High speed machining, I'm assuming.
I actually don't have high speed machining. I have the 200-hour free trial that they con you into buying it with, but I honestly haven't turned it on yet. Um, I wanted to get up and running and run some cycles and get some solid cycle times. After I was done making program tweaks, and so I think here probably in the next week I'm going to run a cycle with it on and see how much of a time difference it makes. I'm on the fence about whether I'm going to buy it or not. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I haven't seen any stuttering, with roughing or my surfacing. I haven't really seen any issues. So we'll see. We'll see how much of a difference it makes. But so no high speed machining yet. I have chip auger, which is a freaking game changer. Let me tell you, it's so nice not having to like climb in there and shovel chips out. So the auger's been nice. I have the programmable coolant nozzle, so that's also been pretty nice. It's actually been really nice because I run, some very different length tools. So knowing that you're always going to have coolant at the tip of the tool is big. Before I have to use, I still have to mess with lock line and trying to find a happy medium on the Mori, whereas the programmable coolant nozzle is nice. I didn't get through spindle coolant. I didn't even get it prepped for it because all the components that I run on that machine are, 1 inch by inch and a half. I'm not drilling any deep holes. I have plenty of flood coolant, so I didn't think it was worth the upgrade for the through spindle coolant. I think I have macros, which I have to have for doing all my sub program stuff. Trying to think what else. I got the high intensity lighting kit because I was used to working in the dungeon on the Mori, and having those lights. Like I'm sure, and people have commented on our posts. Like we post pictures of like the new shop area with the Haas, and it looks like a operating room. Oh, it's so nice. Like it might be overkill. I don't really care though because it's so nice. Having nice bright lighting. But I think after that, I think that's about all the options we got on that machine.
Nice. Well, I mean, it sounds like you bought exactly what you needed. I agree. Like at first, I was like, "Oh, I'm sure he got TSC," but yeah, thinking about the thickness of your parts, like, I mean, it really wouldn't like you you wouldn't have to peck anyway,
Right.
even with a non TSC drill. So who cares?
Yeah,
And it's just
I don't.
money out of your pocket otherwise.
Yeah, I drill three holes in the base plates. I don't peck with that. I just use a carbide drill and one straight shot. Sometimes, I mean, especially in 300 series stainless, I try to avoid pecking because the more times you're, entering the cut with the drill, you're just work hardening it. So if you can get away without pecking, I typically do in stainless. And like you said, the holes are so shallow, there's no need for through spindle. And like I mean, I've seen it on all the Makinos that we run at work. You run through spindle coolant a lot. The rotary union tends to start to leak, and you got to replace the rotary union, which isn't a big deal, but it's just a maintenance thing, and it's really not needed for what I'm doing. If it was going to be a job shop machine, where I didn't know what was coming through the machine, sure, I probably would have opted for it, or at least got it prepped for it. But yeah, for running razors, I really don't need TSC.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I definitely empathize with you on the lights, like going from the kitty with its orange single light to the brother
Yeah.
with, high intensity lighting. It's like, oh man, this actually feels futuristic. Like just because I can see everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, well, one of the first things I did to the Mori when I got it was I took that stupid orange light out of it and I upgraded it to at least an LED floodlight, which made a huge difference. But then you go to this like, I don't know, it's like you're on like stage on Broadway with all these bright lights shining down on you. It's almost like too bright. You can't see what you're doing, but it's awesome.
That's great. So, and then with the chick, you said that was all a package. So, because I was looking at the subplate that you have, like it looks like it could be really multifunction. but right now it's just keeping chips off your T slots, more or less, right?
Yeah, and it has all the like the correct mounting holes for the A-frame, for the tombstone, and then the correct mounting holes for the riser on the rotary. But yeah, it does have a grid pattern on it as well. For I think you could use it as just a regular fixture plate. It's got the like the precision board holes and everything, but it just comes as a package. And I mean, I was really impressed. Like, uh, I mean, the instructions from Chick were very good. All the components were labeled correctly. They all had like engineering drawings with instructions on how to put it together. So it was nice. I was impressed. And then I got to tour their facility too, and I went and picked it up. And it's a it's a much smaller facility than I thought it would be for as much product as they put out. But it was a nice facility. They got some Haws, horizontals, verticals, lathes. It was a nice facility. But yeah, the Chick Tombstone so far has been great, and I'm extremely pleased with their. I think it's the one lock system that I have. Yeah, one lock. How the soft jaws come on and off. I mean, it's essentially just a ball detent. So you can, I mean, you can change. I can change from running top caps to base plates, um, including program change and everything, in probably I don't know. I'd say 3 minutes because all the tooling's loaded up in there. So I can. It's a quick changeover, and that Chick Tombstone really helps with that.
That's awesome. That is, yeah, that's fantastic that you know, can do that so quickly. So even the pallets come on and off with that same one lock system.
Yeah. So underneath, I mean, it's very similar to the way the orange vice pallets work, where it's still a dual station vice under there. They're dowed, and they just pop right off. And what's nice about theirs is Um, I have the one of the early generations orange vices, and I love it, but it's kind of hard getting the pallets on and off. Um, this there's like a rubber bushing at the base of the dowels, so as you loosen the pallet, the bushings then decompress and push the pallet up, so it kind of lifts itself off of the vice rails, and you just grab it off of there, which is a pretty ingenious solution, I thought. So yeah, it's been great. Right now, I don't swap the pallets out, so I'll just leave them in there and pull the stock out and reload new stock. It takes probably 10 or 15 minutes, but when I got 20 hours of uptime, right now I'm not concerned with that 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think you're doing better than most people I know,
Yeah.
whether it's production or not. That's pretty amazing. So, in setting up the Haas and setting up your whole production, has there been anything that has really surprised you, either positive or negative, about the Haas machines?
Positive, I would say, is the control. I know it gets a lot of crap, especially when it comes to multi-axis stuff, full 5-axis stuff, and I can't vouch for it either way when it comes to that. But man, the ease of use is just incredible. You know, I come from running Makinos at work, Mazaks at work, and you know the Makinos are all Fanuc control with their own overlay on top of it because Fanuc's overlay hasn't changed since 1988, so they got to pretty it up somehow. But just the ease of use of the control is, I mean, everything just makes sense. And you know, even on my Yasnak control, and you've run Yasnak, even the Yasnak makes much more sense than Fanuc, and I just don't know. I am not a huge fan of Fanuc, and I'm not shy about it. I know, but um, yeah, just the ease of the control has been great. Even the probing cycles are just simple to use. Just the manual probing cycles, everything's visual. Um, you know, my dad sat in on training, and he was probing parts and touching off tools. You know, in the first half an hour, because they just make it easy. So far, knock on wood, I don't think I have any negatives. I haven't, like I said, I've only been running the machine for a couple months now, so it's early yet. I'm sure I'll have something to complain about at some point. I mean, one of the negatives, and I guess you can see it as a negative, maybe not, is I'm now, and this really speaks to the goal that we just read. I'm piling up inventory elsewhere in the shop, so I'm kind of learning where my bottlenecks are, which is good. So I guess that's one negative if you see it as a negative. But as far as the machine goes, it's been great. it's kind of hard. I spent the first month tooling it up, getting it all set up, probing, getting it ready for production, and now I'm like, I don't think I've used the probe in like 3 weeks, and I'm kind of sad about that. It's like I have this awesome toy over there, and I don't know, I don't get to use it much. But tool breakage is awesome. It's already saved me 3 or 4 times. And typically, when it's one tool that I have that breaks on me, and I'm working to flush that out a little bit. But typically, if that breaks, it's about $500 in tools that break behind it. So
Oof.
that's already saved me at least $1,500. So that's huge. That's really the one thing I could have done without the probing, as nice as it is, but it comes as a package. And tool breakage was really the one thing that I needed. And to run, for 20 hours, you need it really. I mean, or else you're going to come into either a lot of parts that haven't been touched or scrap. So the tool breakage detection was clutch for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I don't have nearly 20 hours of uptime, but even on the titanium and stainless that I've run, after like every roughing or every drill before a tap, like it's just so quick and easy. Like
Yep.
there's no reason not to put it there, and it just like you said, even for me, like I'm most of the time waiting for a cycle to be done, but even then, if I turn my back for a second and that happens to be the tool that breaks, like, well,
Right.
I know that my ass is covered. So
Yep. Exactly. And it's nice because Fusion and Haas obviously pair pretty well. So that tool breakage detection is built right into in your tool library. You just check that whatever tool break, or I forget what it's called. They call it something goofy that doesn't really make any sense. But you check that box and it checks that tool after its last run, or you can add it through manual NC. So it's and that's just all carried through in my post. So that's been probably the best upgrade so far, I would say.
yeah, totally. So do you do any in cycle probing? You said you haven't used it, so I assume not.
Currently, no. And there's probably a couple features that I could, but once they're up and running and I have it dialed in, they stay pretty consistent. And then I've been using their tool life management to monitor tool life, and I have a rough idea of when finishers and roughers need changed out. So I've kind of just been going that route, and I really haven't had any issues. It's one of my goals is to get in process probing built in, but I, I don't want to get carried away to where then I'm adding 3 hours of cycle time. By the time you probe 24 parts, or the 24 op ones and the 8 op twos, you could be adding hours to your cycle time. So I got to try to not get carried away with it. But I'll definitely use it for a couple features at some point.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So the other thing that I had messaged you about earlier that I was really interested in is you're now white labeling razors for Wet Shaving Club, right?
Yes, that's
Or Wet
correct.
Shaving Co.
Wet Shaving Club.
Okay, so how did that start? How is it? How does it feel to be white labeling your razors or slightly different? How did that whole deal happen? Like that, I think that personally, I'm very interested in how that all went, and I'm sure that our audience would be too.
Yeah, so the guy there, his name is Rob. He reached out to me, and I think he just messaged me through my website saying that they were, he put their website on there. They're starting up a wet shaving club website, and he said, it's similar to Dollar Shave Club, except instead of sending plastic disposables every month, they have double edged safety razor packages, and they have a couple different options. They have your economy option that those razors, and they'll admit it, they're made in China, and it's to get your foot in the door. But they wanted to offer an American made razor, and they liked our razor, and they read the reviews, and so he reached out to me and said, would I be interested in selling him our razors? And actually, I think no. The first thing he did is he came to me with some drawings of they had developed their own safety razor. They worked with, I think they contracted an engineer and worked with their own razor. And they shot me the drawings, and I looked at it, and told them some things that weren't manufacturable or this may not work. And by the time we got down to it, they're like, well, do you just want to design one for us? And you'll be the exclusive manufacturer for it. And I was like, sure, I'll take a crack at it. So that's kind of how the whole design process got started. So then I started, going through some iterations. I was shooting them back and forth to him, and we finally landed on a design we were happy with. So they ordered a few prototypes, and I machined the prototypes, sent them to them. We made a couple other small changes after that, and then we kind of, he sat down, and he wrote up an agreement where I guarantee, or he orders a blanket amount, and then I deliver, so many per month until that blanket amount is covered. And that's kind of where it all started. And so far, it's actually funny, they wanted so many a month for the first 4 months. And after the first month, they're like, hey, can we get more like next week? Hey, can we get the other shipment right after that? I'm like, all right, so we're going to have to redraw up some paperwork here after this first blanket order's done. But they've been really highly received in the wet shaving community. I know a lot of my customers purchased the razor, and it's gotten great reviews on YouTube. So they're kind of taken off along with our standard model 921 razor. So it's things have gotten busy in a hurry. So yeah, and that's been good because it's a guaranteed amount of revenue per month. And after the first 4 months, we're going to sit down and we're going to draw up another contract. And I think based on the popularity they've had so far, I think that'll be good going into 2021. At least to have some constant revenue, constant sales, which is good. So that's been it was an interesting experience. It took some time. The guys there that run that company don't have much manufacturing experience, so there was some back and forth as far as lead times, cost. Of course, they beat me up on cost, and I went back to them. But it's the typical stuff. But so far, they've been great to work with. It's been interesting, but it's been fun, and it gives me more components to make. I make all those components here. We're still, for our razors, for the quantities, we're still ordering our handles from Ben Jenkinson for the most part. We make like the newer, thicker handles that you got. We make all those here, but for our 921 handles, our 4-inch handles, we still go to Ben for those. But all of the Wet Shaving Club razor handles we make here, so I'm making those on the Mazak. So it's been fun. It's a different component to make, but it's been a learning experience as well.
Yeah, it's neat. It has like some very significant design cues that are different than yours too. So you definitely, good on you for being able to design something that's still like, you can still look at it and be like, oh, that's probably a Yates razor, but like at the same time you're like, oh, but that's not a 921.
Yeah, so that was kind of my goal too. In the wet shaving industry, the stone wash finish is kind of our signature. No one else really does that. So I wanted to make sure that I put the stone wash finish on this razor. So, at the end of the day, people do know it's our razor. And Wet Shaving Club, they've been great. They've announced that, we make them, we design them. They're a razor technically, but, they're made here in PA by us. And they haven't been shy about posting on Instagram and things like that. But like you said, it does still have our inherent look, but it is vastly different as well. They wanted a milder razor because they kind of cater to the entry level, people switching from plastic disposables, and this is their first safety razor. So it's milder than our standard 921 razor, but it still shaves great. I mean, I use it, and it has and this is something they wanted, and good on them. They wanted a magnet in the base of the handle. So in the bottom of the handle, there's a little magnet that's pressed in, which helps with picking your razor blade up off the counter. I know I've struggled with that at times, and you're afraid to cut yourself, so you just yeah. So it was pretty clever, and that was 100% their idea, and that's all theirs, and I just followed through with it. So I bought some small 1/8-inch magnets from from McMaster and press them in, and it's working out great. So yeah, I thought that was a good touch. And then
Oh, cool.
the American flag engraved on the top cap, that turned out pretty well. That was their idea as well. So
So is that are you engraving that in the machine or is that laser?
that's laser engraved. So my buddy Ryan, Shore Machining on Instagram, he has a fiber laser that I outsourced that to him, and then still in our razor stands, I have Brandon Machine Shop Outlaw. He does our engraving on there. I don't know. I like to spread the work around within the Insta Machinist community if I can, so keep people busy. But yeah, Ryan does that American flag laser engraving for me.
Neat. That's really cool. That is really so speaking I guess of stands and all of that, is there anything you want to kind of share with everybody about Black Friday coming up? Do you have any new products or re-releases coming up?
So
Or what can you share, I guess?
yeah, Black Friday is it's going to be a crunch, but we'll definitely have our just standard stonewash razors back in stock. I have tons of people asking for those. Um, we're working on getting our electropolish razors back in stock. That'll probably be early in December. And then we have another run of our razor stands coming up. That'll probably be mid to late December. So as far as Black Friday goes, we'll have stonewash razors, our H plates, our stonewashed H plates, which is our more aggressive base plate. Those will be back in stock. Um, we have we just restocked all of our leather travel cases from Spaceman Leather, so we have those. We'll have our brass hybrid plates back in stock. I think that'll be it probably for Black Friday, and then like I said, following that it'll be electropolished, razor stands, and then we're going to start. And I did a little bit of a teaser on my story the other day. We're going to start developing and start working on a titanium razor. We've had a lot of people ask for that, and that's kind of what I'm most excited for. And that'll probably be early in 2021. So out of the gate, it's probably going to look a lot like our standard 921 razor, just offered in titanium. But long term, our goal is to open up a custom titanium razor program. So it'll kind of be similar to like what John does at Grimsmo Knives, where um, you know you're on a list, and we've actually sent out just some feelers, and we already have quite a few people on this list. And then when you get emailed, you'll get to choose which plate you want, which finishes. We'll do anodized titanium for the different components. We'll probably offer some custom engraving as well. So that's kind of something different for the razor industry, and it's something that a lot of people are excited about. The logistics of it aren't real straightforward, so we got to get a lot of the stuff taken care of on the back end. But that's something we're pretty excited about launching in 2021.
That's awesome. That'll be super super cool. Just
Yeah,
that titanium razor in general would be fantastic, but man, getting to do custom stuff is going to be super interesting.
yeah, and it's not for everybody. Just like a custom titanium folding knife isn't for everybody, but there's enough people in that market that it justifies it. I don't think it'll be it may be, I'll be wrong, but I don't think it'll be our top seller. I still think it'll be our standard stainless razors, but I think it's a way to, and people love customizing their razors already. I have people send me their razors from other companies for me to stonewash them or me to add some touches to them, which I'm happy to do. So people like to customize them. People polish their own razors. So I think offering that as a program, um, I think people will like that. And like I said, it's not for everybody because there's going to be a price tag to it, right? I mean, nothing custom, nothing titanium is cheap, but it's it's something that's unique to you and it's yours. And yeah, I think it'll be cool. It'll be probably a bit of a headache on our end to start until we get some things ironed out. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it because I don't think anyone else out there really offers that in this industry. Um, it's big in the knife industry, but it hasn't really made its way. Just like the stonewash finish hasn't really made its way into the wet shaving industry. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be great. So you mentioned your stonewash finish and also that you read the goal. Is your bead blaster your Herbie, or where are you finding the Herbies in your shop?
So the bead blaster was my Herbie, and now I've since taken care of that by purchasing the new, larger, more reliable one. Deburring right now is probably my biggest constraint, um, and I've been, and that was really because I was the only one that I trusted to do it, and the only one that did it. But as you've seen on Instagram, I've kind of delegated that to Ashley lately, and she's been doing a great job. And she has, quite frankly, more time. Well, I wouldn't say more time, but if she's deburring, that means I don't have to be deburring, and I can be working on some other more technical things like setting up machines, or designing new razors, programming things like that. So I would say right now, deburring is probably our biggest Herbie when it comes to razors. Um, After that, outside of razors, I would say the lathe is probably our biggest Herbie. It's like our what was it, the what was the machine, the NC whatever.
The NCX.
Yeah, NCX whatever. That's our NCX is the lathe, and that's just because the cycle times are so short and we don't have any sort of automation on it, so someone has to be standing there. Um, and it is what it is. Our next purchase will absolutely be a twin spindle Y-axis lathe with a bar feeder. That's the next purchase. So that'll be nice. But yeah, I would say deburring and maybe passivation for the stainless razors was probably a Herbie right now. But it really just comes down to time because I need to get better at delegating these things, and I have lately. I've been giving Ashley a lot more tasks, and there's been some road bumps and some scrap parts along the way. But that's part of the learning process, right? I mean, she's gone from not knowing what a CNC machine is to now running a Mazak lathe, Mori mill, a Haas mill, deburring parts. So it's been a steep learning curve, but she's picked it up really quick. So I'm fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like, I deal with people who this is their trade, and I'm still teaching them stuff every day so that we don't scrap parts at work. So I can only imagine like how much she's picked up in a few months now. So it's
Listen,
pretty amazing.
I was they were setting up one of my jobs at work the other day, a job that we had run before, and they were having trouble. I had to show the guy who was setting it up how to snap an collet into the collet nut. So that's I know your
Oh
pain, man.
no.
Yeah, so it's not just in Arizona; it's all over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, it's sometimes astounding at the gaps. And really, like, we're at work right now. The reason we started a book club, or one of the reasons we started a book club on the podcast, is we're doing that at my day job.
Okay,
And right now we're just finishing the book Extreme Ownership.
okay.
I don't know if you've read that,
Now is that Jocko?
but yeah, and the whole idea is that teams don't fail, leaders fail to lead their teams is more a really brief summary. And so, like, every time that I see a gap like that, I'm like, well, somewhere along the line someone failed to teach you what you need, and so, like, now it's up to me. And
Yeah, and
it's definitely been a big, like, ego check of like, oh well, you shouldn't be blaming anybody, you should really just take ownership and be like, okay, well, now is my chance to lead and my chance to teach you something.
yeah, and that was 100% the case at work. Like I said, teaching the guy how to snap a collet, and he's a smart guy. Just by talking to him, he's a smart guy, but no one has ever showed him how to do this, and you can't just assume people automatically know how to do it, right? Someone had to show me how to do it at one point. I didn't just know how to do it. So it was 100% a case of no one showed him how to do it. And at my job, that's not, or at my day job, that's not really my. I'd be stepping on people's toes if I was out there training operators. Unfortunately, so it's not really within my job description. As much as I hate when people say that, but I can I can notify the correct people and get that taken care of, which I need to start doing more of as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it still is funny. Like that doesn't change anything about that.
Oh,
Like it,
absolutely right.
you would expect anybody on the floor to be able to snap an ER collet into a collet
Yeah.
nut.
Now, in all fairness, we run like 90% shrink fit, so he can probably run the shrink fit machine, but just can't run a collet, which is the inverse of pretty much everyone else in the world.
Right. Yeah. That somehow makes it even funnier. Um,
Yeah.
well, that's cool. So I was looking over the questions we asked you last time you were on here, and one of them was we had asked you how do you balance a day job, your own shop, and family time. So kind of a twist on that question. Now that Ashley is in there, do you feel like you have more time with her and time as a family together, or how has that balance changed or gotten better or worse since she started joining you in the shop?
Well, since she started joining me in the shop, it's gotten 100% better. I think I mentioned last time, it's like, and you experience this, I'm sure Payton experiences this. It's like, and you're out here at like midnight by yourself, it just gets boring and lonely. So it's nice just having someone out here to chat with and to mess around with. Not mess around like that, guys. Come on. But no,
Hey, there's a lot of wine that I've seen down at the shop too, so you never know.
yeah, yeah. Oh, she's gonna regret that story forever. Everyone comments about her having wine in the shop. That and anytime she posts a picture or a story of her doing anything without safety glasses on, the Instagram police come out and are like, "Please protect your eyes. Where are your safety glasses?" You're like, "Oh my god, relax. It's not a big deal." She's deburring a part with a nail file. Essentially, she'll be all right. But anyways, to get back to your question, it's definitely gotten better in that regard. But the fact that we have gotten so much busier, uh, that balance is becoming more and more difficult. So, I mean, my typical day is, I wake up, I try to get up at, and she'll listen to this and call me a bullshitter, but I try to get up at 6 and get a workout in, and try to leave the house by 7:30, get to my job, leave the day job by 5, get home at 5:45, 6, eat dinner, play with the kids, get the kids down by 7:30 or 8, come out here at 8, 8:30, and then I'm out here till, I mean, there's times I'm out here till 2, and then I try to wake up and do it all again the next day. So it's it wears on you for sure. We've gotten a little bit better about trying to split up our responsibilities and give me a couple nights off, and she comes out here and runs some parts instead of me. But yeah, I mean, it's no easy task by any means. I don't want to sacrifice time with my boys. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and those are years you don't get back. So I try to sacrifice sleep rather than sacrifice time with them. Now there are times where I'll come out here right after work, so I can get in early, but it's it's not easy, But I think the end goal will hopefully be worth it. So we'll see. So far, I'm able to sustain it and maintain it, as tired as I am some days. But it's like I said, it's a grind. But I think that's kind of what entrepreneurs are wired for, right? We love working, we love learning. We don't like being idle, so um, we
Yeah,
survive.
I deeply empathize with all of that. So
Yeah,
I know the 2 a.m. struggles. I know the waking up at 5:36 the next morning. It definitely is wearing, but there are some big pros to the whole thing as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
definitely.
really really cool to see you like really just killing it. Like I had no idea how much you had already done on the Haas as far as all of that automation and stuff, and that's you know that's really next level stuff. Like it sounds like you've really bulletproofed it so that you can have Ashley or your dad or somebody come in and run the machine and not really worry about it while you're at work.
Yeah, and I mean it's not just the automation within the Haas as much as that's a huge part. But I've recorded videos of me loading parts and describing how to load parts, and we have torque wrenches on all the machines set to what they need to be set to. So the videos my wife and my dad both have the videos. So if they ever are unsure of something, they just refer back to the video, see how to do it. And yeah, the torque wrenches that keeps my dad has never really done anything mm, precisely before. I guess he's always kind of been a brunt force kind of guy. So having torque wrenches is key in that regard, to keep him from launching things down as tight as he can. So just little things like that, and we have a ways to go until we're there, and I don't think we'll ever be there 100%. But just little things like that, go a long way in automation and delegating tasks to other people.
Yeah, 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 totally. I didn't realize how much you could do with I mean, I guess I did. I just didn't. I've never talked to somebody who has done that much with the post and had them explain it to me like that, and it really has opened my eyes with a how much I need to edit my post, because I just still hand do a bunch of stuff because I say that I can't find the time to do it, and yet really I just need to suck it up and get it done.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I am
but
I am really against editing things by hand. Not because I'm not capable, and not because I don't think it's necessary at times, but you're too likely to fat finger something, and if I fat finger something, I'm pressing cycle start and I'm walking away for a day sometimes, and I could I'll watch the program come down, and the first 30 seconds look good, but I'm not going to stand here for 20 hours and watch the whole thing. So I have to be able to trust the post, and trust that I didn't fat finger anything. So pretty much everything I run comes straight out of Fusion. Even like all my programs, they have G10L lines that So I type in and double check all of my work offsets. So all my work offsets are stored within that program. So every time I run it, I know the right work offsets are being used. So it populates all my G154 offsets. Um, yeah, it's just I've tried to make it as fail-proof as possible. In 98% of the credit goes to Brian at Autodesk. He's like I said, he's a wizard when it comes to posts. He's not getting paid anything to edit my Fusion posts, right? He sells mainly power mill and part maker, but he goes out of his way. He helps us out, and he's a good dude. So, and he's expressed interest at coming on the podcast. He's listened to a lot of the episodes. So he's he said he's more than happy to come on and chat software with you guys. So
oh man, yeah, we'd love that. I know that I have like dabbled in post editing, and I've gotten a few things done, but really all it's taught me is like how terrible I am at it. And like I've tried to do some things and just failed miserably at it. So I'd love to kind of pick somebody's brain about, where to start and what resources he uses and all of that.
yeah, I mean he's one of the guys you call him for a 30-second question, and 3 hours later you're still on the phone with him talking about something completely different, but all relating to machining. I mean he's lived and breathed machining his entire life. He's a good dude, like I said, and he's written every one of our posts for Part Maker and Power Mill at Work, and then I think my Fusion post was the first one he really dug into and did. He's used to writing Power Mill and Part Maker posts, which is a completely different language. But he came through like he always does. He bitched and moaned a little bit, but he came through.
Well, that's awesome. So I guess let's take a kind of a step back. I've been looking at your Instagram, and like you use MMM little tiny jaws, you use Talon grips. Like, what have you learned? I guess since the last time we talked to you, both about work holding and maybe about tooling and stuff. Specifically, you do a lot of 316, which is known to be quite the bearer of material. So, what lessons can you give us?
Yeah, so Speaking of MMM, Ashley and I were actually on their podcast a couple weeks ago, which that should be coming out soon. So we were both on there, and it should be a pretty good one. So it's pretty entertaining. But those are good guys out in Oklahoma, Jordan and Nace at MMM. Uh, so we've used their piranha strips and their piranha jaws for probably 3 years now, and I I don't know how many razor components I've run through them. I've never thrown a part out of the pallet ever, and I mean they're just for what they are, they're fantastic. And then couple those with the Mighty Bite pit bulls, and I mean, like I said, I've been using that same combination for 3 years now, and it's been great. So if it's not broken, don't fix it, kind of thing. So I stuck with that on the Haas pallet. I just scaled it up, which I try to do. You know, as I develop a process, I just try to slowly scale it up. So yeah, I mean that's my main work holding, especially for the op one. And like you said, everything's 316 stainless, and soon to be titanium. And we haven't had any problems. We haven't broken any of those jaws, nothing. So that's been pretty foolproof, thank goodness. And then as far as tooling goes, I don't know if you saw I think it was a story or a post fairly recently, but my main rougher is a little 3/8 6 flutes helical rougher, and that tool is still in the machine, and I think I'm up to about 35 hours of in the cut time on it in stainless. I think I've run like 200 or 300 razor components on that one tool. So I guess I think I've just lucked into the right feed and speed combination, and it's a good tool. So that helical tool has been by far the best thing I've stumbled upon. Other than that,
I definitely agree with that. I love the helical tools. Like I think I've said a few times on the podcast, I've got one 387 flute rougher that I've used in titanium and 304 and 303, and like it I bought it specifically and paid for it out of one job out of 304. And I was like, well, if again, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I was like, oh, I'll just stick it into this next 303 job. And I was like, well, it's not broken, so stick it into the titanium job. And it just keeps chugging along.
yeah, I mean the amount of material this thing has removed is crazy, and like I don't want to sound like a helical and Harvey fanboy, but I do like their tools and I use a lot of them. But yeah, this tool, and we use a lot of their stuff at work in titanium and 17.4 H900 stainless, and they perform just as well. And you know, when you look at it, they're really not that ridiculously expensive. I think this tool that I'm running is like $40. So I've got 35 hours in stainless on a $40 tool. I can live with those results.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I see that you have it in a shrink fit. Are you doing the map gas torch thing like a lot of us are?
Oh yeah, 100%. Got my map gas torch, got my leather glove, got my channel locks to pull the old tool out, and I'm still rolling with that. So it's hasn't failed me yet. So I don't know. Between a $20 map gas torch and a $20,000 shrink fit machine. Well, I know you can get them cheaper than that, but that's like what the Heimer unit costs. Um, yeah, I mean, sure it might not be the best for the tool order. I haven't seen those results yet, but after that, I'll just buy a new tool order. The map gas torch. The only downside to that is it takes forever to cool down. So I
Yeah, it does.
I like changing shrink fit tools out in the wintertime because I just set it outside for a little while. But summertime takes a while.
Yeah, I've had them not cool down overnight before.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
granted, it was a late night and an early morning, but
sure.
still, like I came back in and touched it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's still warm. I'll let it sit.
Yeah, they take forever, but that's the only downside I think to the map gas route. Now you might, if you don't get even heating or even cooling, you might induce some runouts. But I really don't think for 99% of us that we're gonna, see any negative effects from that. But I don't run. I mean, I think I only run maybe 3 or 4 shrink fit tools. The rest are just ER collets.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
How did
bought.
you tool up the Haas? Did you buy a bunch of Haas tooling when you bought it?
Oh, I did. They conned me into that one too, and I don't want to say con, but they made it too easy to not to. So it and so far it's been great. I haven't had any complaints with it at all. They seem to be well made. Like I said, I've only been running them for a couple months, but I've also run some eBay specials that they're crap like the first time it comes out. So I don't have any complaints with the Haas tooling.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's incredibly affordable. Like almost scary affordable, like what they're doing with their face mills right now. So it's cool to hear those kind of results.
Yeah, and I mean kudos to them for getting into that game. I mean it because I'm buying a machine. Oh, you have tooling packages too? Yeah, I'll buy that. Couple it into my finance, whatever. Oh, you have tools? I can buy carbide from you. All right, throw that in too. I mean, it's a great marketing strategy.
Yeah, yeah, for seriously. Um, well, that's awesome. It sounds like things are really rolling, and it sounds like you got the Haas at the right time, like with the Wet Shave Club stuff. I doubt you would have been able to handle all that
No,
just having the
definitely not.
Mori.
And so far, all of the Wet Shaving Club razors have come off the Mori. We haven't moved those to the Haas yet. Not sure if we will or not. They run pretty good on the Mori, and right now the quantities are low enough that the Mori can keep up. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been able to keep up with one spindle. There's no way.
Well, that's cool. So I guess you said Y-axis lathe is probably next. Anything else that you see coming in the near future for you guys?
Well, I did forget to mention one new product we have coming up, and we've been kind of teasing about it. But Brandon at Machine Shop Outlaw made us some killer stainless shower shelves. Um, they're we got them in yesterday. Ashley's working on taking some photos of them, but they'll be available for Black Friday for sure. They look awesome. He does like top notch work, especially when it comes to sheet metal bending and laser engraving. I mean, it's just everything is just so crisp and so well done. So these shower shelves are, and you don't even need to own a razor to use one. Now they're meant to hold our razor, but they got places for soap, extra base plates, all kind of stuff. So for those of you that shave in the shower, that's coming pretty soon. And like I said, they're awesome. They're 316 stainless as well, same materials as razors. They have a stone wash finish on them. He put the stone wash on them. It looks great. So yeah, so those are coming as well, which we're real excited about. And Brandon's such a good dude. I think he should be a future guest on this podcast because I think he's got a lot to talk about. And he's in a little bit different industry, so he's a good dude.
Yeah, I think I'd love to have him on. You weren't kidding about a different industry. Like flying people on stage is not what you would consider your normal machinist career, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, and talk about an industry that has taken all industries have taken a hit, but talk about an industry that's taken a real big hit due to this pandemic. I mean, I don't even think you can go to shows still, right? So, and that's the only people using those devices. So I think they've had to. I think talking to him, they had to scramble, they had to diversify a bit, but it's good to see that he's still working and they're still making money and still machining. So that's good to see. But yeah, I know talking to him early on, there were some uncertain times for him, and I felt for him. So I'm glad to see he's still with that company and still cranking along. So.
Yeah, same. And he's got his EDC Outlaw stuff going on now too, which
Oh
is
yeah,
pretty awesome.
I picked up a set of his little Nipex pliers. Those things are sweet. Like I said, he's very creative and he does great work with the laser. And so I see him doing pretty big things with the EDC Outlaw. I know he's working on some other stuff already. And he partnered with Nipex, I believe, or KC Tools, and he who I think they have tens of thousands of followers. He was able to do a giveaway with them. He grew his audience overnight, so he's doing the right things. So I'm happy for him for sure because, like I said, he's such a good guy.
Yeah, same. I was just talking to him last night because we're looking for a laser at work, and seems to really like his Tecma, and so we were talking about that a lot.
Yeah, I've asked him that before too. He's the guy to go to with laser questions for sure. Um, and then as far as
Yeah,
other
yeah,
new things in the shop, like you said, the next machine will be twin spindle Y-axis bar feeder because we got to automate that end of our process. When that'll come, I don't know. I got to see how the first half of 2021 goes. to be honest, I'll probably go with a Sugami, or I hate to say it because I know I've bashed them in before, but a Doosan possibly, because I know their y-axis their y-axis lathes are solid,
Yeah.
but their mill turns, ugh, light those things on fire.
Yeah. We don't have any other y-axis lathes at work, but we've got a few other two-axis lathes, and they are like bulletproof lathes.
Yeah, we have
So I
some.
think as long as you're buying a lathe more than the mill side of a multi-axis kind of thing, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, we have some. We have some old um, three-axis Daewoo's at Perryman. You know, before they were Doosan, and they're still rock solid, still running today. So they have. I think they have that part down, but you start adding a B-axis head and a lower turret. I think they get a little bit confused. So that's kind of where I draw the line. But honestly, I'll probably end up going with the Tsugami, that little MO8 SY, unless someone talks me out of it. So anyone listening, if you have any feedback on any of those machines, please reach out. But I like the little Tsugami. I think it kind of fits our workflow and our work envelope. So, but like I said, that's probably late 2021 at the earliest. I got to see how things shake out with the pandemic and how sales go in the first half of 2021.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. But you preempted my question. I was going to ask you what brands you were looking at. That MO8 looks really really cool, and Sugami is. It's interesting seeing a company that's like so known for Swiss lathes kind of venture out into, uh, I guess, normal in quotes lathe.
Yeah, yeah, we have one of their a new 5-axis Swiss lathe at work, which that thing's pretty killer. It's got a B-axis head in it that I think it has 5 stations on the B-axis head, so we have full 5-axis on the Swiss lathe. So that's a nice machine. And so far, we're pretty close to Morris Great Lakes here, who sell Sigami. They have pretty good service. Good friends with the sales rep there. So I'm probably leaning towards the Sugami, like I said, unless someone can talk me out of it. But from what I've heard, they're good machines.
And they're not terribly priced either, from what I've heard. I haven't had one priced out myself, but I
No,
mean,
I
as
t-
far as y-axis twin
yeah,
spindles, they seem pretty well priced.
yeah. I talked to our sales rep, and he is convinced he can get me into a new twin spindle y-axis with the bar feeder for 130, 140. Well, don't quote me on that. That was just off the cuff him pricing it, but I mean, for what you get there, that's not too bad.
No, not at all. That's really reasonable.
Yeah. So what
Well,
about?
as a
Hold on. What about you?
go for
So let's hear about you. Where are your Herbies in your shop, and then what's next for Dylan and Brad at Proteum?
it. I think I kind of was alluding to it. My biggest, I guess, Herbie right now is me. Like I have not gotten the top level technical stuff done that I need to do. Like I really need to get our post done. I keep hand editing for um like a lot of high speed codes and probing cycles and stuff like that. Like not all the probing cycles, but if I want to check bores or anything like that, um I need to hand code because the brother post isn't really well sorted out for that.
Right.
I need to get our 0 point system actually like done and in cam. I have the template of all the 3D models, but I need to get all the templates done of being able to probe any of the stations off of a master work coordinate. And then I guess what's next right now is we are getting rid of the kitty. Like that is my goal for the first month or two of 2021. We're gonna
I've been
probably
hearing
clean it
that
up
for quite some
either.
time.
Yeah, I know, but we have the windows now, and I am determined to get it out. Like I was there yesterday, working on some rush parts, and I kept looking at it, and I was like, man, I wish I had just like double the cycle time so I could start cleaning it. Uh, because I'm just so sick of looking at it, and like now we both just got 2 new engines for our project cars, and so
Yeah, I
now we
saw
have
that.
like way too much garbage in our shop to not to have like one machine that we don't use. Um, and then I think we've decided. I'm waiting to hear back from my uh, salesperson, but I'm pretty sure we're going to buy a new compressor before the end of the year. Finally,
So you decided on compressor over bandsaw?
Yeah, I can get sawing done other places. I have to live with that compressor every single day.
Yeah,
And
I was.
like we didn't really find a bandsaw that we were like super hot on. Like there was a few, like the Bailey looked okay, and then I had a few people reach out. They're like, "Don't get that. It's just Chinese and rebranded." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll keep looking." And nothing really popped out as like, "Oh, I gotta have this year." Whereas like I sit in the shop every day and I'm like, "I wish this compressor would turn off, or I wish this compressor would shut up for a second so I can take a call."
Right. Yeah, we luckily I had the foresight to, when we were building the shop, build a small utility room that we heavily insulated and put a door on, and that's where my compressor and my phase converter live. So you can barely hear them kick on. But if I had to have my big dual stage compressor out on the shop floor with me, I don't think I could take it.
It sucks. And like what really sucks is we already bought a compressor from Eaton because it was supposed to be like the quiet piston compressor.
Yeah.
And it was like a significant drop in decibels over our, standard garbage Harbor Freight one. But or not even, it wasn't Harbor Freight, it was a Home Depot or whatever. But man, it is still just like droning and beats your ears into submission even with earplugs in. And I'm just, both of us are very ready to get it out of there.
Are you going with the
And it's got low hours too.
screw compressor then?
Yeah, yeah. I think we're gonna go with another Eaton because they have like a really killer warranty, and as far as um, cost per feature, like they're just super inexpensive in comparison to like Kaiser or Atlas Copco or something like that. And so we're looking at a 10 horsepower variable speed drive, 120-gallon tank one. And so yeah, like I said, I got the first quote back and I had some questions, and I'm just waiting on her to respond back, and then I'll pull the trigger.
Now, does that have the an air dryer built in as well?
No, so we already have we have actually a Harbor Freight air dryer, but it works incredibly well, and
That's the
their
same.
air dryer looks more.
Yeah, that's the same. I have the
Go for
Harbor.
it.
I have the Harbor Freight one as well, and up until about a month ago, it worked great. But now, and maybe you can shed some light on this. It keeps like giving me an error. Like my light comes on and it quits working. And if I open it up and then there's like a little reset switch in there, it'll run for a month or two, and then it does the same thing. And I don't know if I just need to clean
Oh,
something or
so double check when it does that it's not freezing up, because we had to adjust the pressure on ours by like I think it was only like a pound or something like that,
so.
and because
So
we
if I
had ours freezing up in the
okay,
summer like once a week,
okay.
and like it would just all of a sudden everything would shut down because there would be no more air, and then we adjusted the poundage down on it, and now it has not frozen up since then and has worked completely reliably.
So you could visibly see that it was frozen inside.
Well, we would just have no air coming out the other side.
Oh, see,
Like
see,
it was
I was
literally
still
a
getting
block
air.
of ice in there.
I was still getting air, so I don't, which was weird. It just had that.
I think we've gotten that air light before, and I'm trying to remember what we did to fix it. I know Saunders has like quite a few videos from back in his
Yeah,
like first early days on
hmm
it, and maybe it was in one of those videos that he talks about it. I can't remember.
yeah. I'll have to. I downloaded the manual and looked at it, and one of the things it said is like there's two key areas to clean in there. I just haven't gotten around to it. Although I just went to do some sandblasting in our new cabinet, and the first thing that came out was like a quart of water. So I should probably do that, I guess.
Oh, we did have to clean our condenser too pretty heavily at one point.
That might be it. Because, like I said, I have it shoved in that little utility room, and there's not a lot of airflow through there, so it might just be dirty. But I gotta get on that. And now that the moisture is finding its way into my airlines, I guess it's kind of pressing. So, anyways, I'm glad to see that you have the same air dryer and have been relatively happy with it as I have too. And for the price, you can't really beat it. So,
Yeah, I mean that's the problem is like I don't want to spend any more money on another air dryer because it works just so well. If it gave me fits all the time, I might be considering getting a new one. But yeah, it's been running 2.5, 3 years for us, and like almost zero issues.
yeah,
Like I said, we had the freezing up issue. We replaced the drain on it because the auto drain that they come with is absolute garbage. Um, and then yeah, we've had to clean the condenser and the coil I think one or two times over the years.
All right, I'll have to dig into it. I'm sure it's something along those lines, whether it needs cleaned or it's freezing up. But I just need to not be lazy in that regard. So, what else? Oh, how's the accountant working out? Good.
Good. Well, okay. So initially, I think I talked about it on here. She, we said, oh, we want you to clean up the books, blah, blah, blah. And then she did like zero of anything for the first month and a half. Um, and I literally the day before I was about to call her and be like, hey, don't bother. We're going to find a new accountant. She like went in that night and like cleaned up everything under the sun. And then a week or two ago, I emailed her and was like, "Hey, we want to know like what our tax liability is so that we can plan any capital purchases we need to before the end of the year."
Hmm.
And I didn't hear from her for like 3 or 4 days, and followed up and was like, "Hey, just wanted to follow up on this." And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm out of town for like a family emergency. Let me include in our other bookkeeper, Stephanie. She'll take care of you." And like then everything has gotten rolling, and she got back in town and has been emailing me a bunch. So um, I think COVID's been kind of weird with her. Like she said that because the IRS was like so backed up and like nobody was working, that she was still slammed like deep into, I think August is when we went and saw her, or September. And
Yeah.
so she was like, yeah, I'm still like, I still have clients waiting on returns and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So
Tax returns got
um,
pushed way back, so I know, like my bookkeeper has been busy as well with tax returns and everything. So yeah, it's been an off year. I'm ready to just write this one off. But so a little bit of a rough start with the accountant, but seems to be rolling smoothly now. Then.
yeah, well, and she's always been really good about getting our taxes done, and like I've been always very terrible about getting her our books like at the last possible second, and she still has never really complained and like filed for an extension if she needs to or anything like that. So I'll give her another 6 months of supposedly clearing our books and making sure all that, and I want to go in and meet with her again and kind of re-outline my objectives and be like, hey, I need to like, what do I need to give you so that my books are closed 3 days after the month is done, so
Right.
that I can see like where we are profit and loss and really start planning my exit strategy from work and all that. So
Right.
I think she just needs a little more guidance.
Yeah, and is she familiar with manufacturing at all, or is that a learning curve for her as well, or doesn't it really matter?
So I think she knows manufacturing because so she is the daughter of the person I first signed up with there, and her mother constantly was saying that her husband owned some big manufacturing place in town.
Okay.
I don't think it was a machine shop, but I think he like retrofitted or fixed military aircraft parts, and
Yeah.
so he was down by the Air Force base here. Um, so I assume that she knows. I again don't know that he's her dad though. Like maybe she has zero contact with him, or or maybe she has a ton of contact. I really have no idea.
Right.
So far she hasn't asked any questions that make me think that she's like super ignorant about manufacturing. So I probably should dig into that some more.
Yeah. No, I forget. Do you use QuickBooks, or what do you use for your accounting software?
I use Zero,
Okay.
XERO.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys use QuickBooks?
Yeah, we do. And we use QuickBooks Online, and I know people bash it, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about that stuff to even have an opinion. But nothing. I haven't been restricted by anything, and I haven't really had any issues with it. But like I said, I might just not. Maybe Zero is like way better, but I just don't know the differences. To be honest, I send my statements to our bookkeeper once a month, and she calculates all of our profit and loss and runs all our reports for us. And I get it back, and it looks good, and then I just carry on with my life. So I don't deal with it too much. I invoice through QuickBooks with our job shop stuff, so that seems to go pretty smoothly. Like I said, I haven't had any issues, but I do hear bad things. And I like Saunders is very anti Intuit and anti QuickBooks, so I don't know. I don't have any issues, but
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people bash it. That's why I avoided it. Like a good friend of mine uses it. He was like, "Man, if you're not already hooked in, don't get into it." So that's why I went with Zero. But like, I've never used it personally, so I have zero personal opinion on it.
yeah, fair.
Zero works great for me. It's got a good mobile app. My accountant actually, funny enough, just as we started talking to her about cleaning up our books for us, she was like, "Oh, I actually just got contacted by Zero, and they want to make me a partner." And I guess she was like ticked off because Intuit did something on their end this year that really bugged her. It wasn't like anything that a customer facing person could see, but like
Right.
I guess when she was running tax reports, it wasn't putting in zeros in any line that had zero.
Oh,
And like when she talked to them about it, they were like, "Oh, well, you can just hand fill that in." And she's like, "No, I kind of pay you so that you fill it in, and I don't have to do that work."
right. Yeah, I mean, there's
But
probably tons of
yes,
things like that
it's
that I
worked
don't
out.
see, but yeah. Oh, how's Airtable working out?
Um, that's another one of those top level technician things that I need to work on more. It works okay. I just haven't been giving it the attention I need to. Like seeing what's there. Like there's so much that I need to do and so much that I want to do, and I just have not put any of the time into it really. Like I think even my Zap is broken between zero and whatever, and or between zero and Airtable, and I haven't fixed it yet.
Yeah,
They keep emailing me and they're like, "Hey, this is broken," and I'm like, "Yeah, but then I got to sign in."
yeah, exactly. Half the time I don't remember my password.
So yeah, yeah, having multiple. I wish or Zapier had a mobile app. Like that's what kind of bugs me about it. Like I love how easy it is when you're online, but like it's like, man, just give me a mobile app so that I can create zaps as I come up with them on the go.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I I still, I mean, I use Airtable almost exclusively. I haven't really done too much as far as, I got everything kind of in place, good enough to start, and I haven't really done like you. I need to take some time and do some more development there. But so far, it's been pretty good. I saw Easton got his TV on Prime Day and has Airtable up on it, so that was cool to see.
Yeah, he's loving it. He was like, man, the job list gets me so pumped to get stuff done.
Yeah,
He's like, man, I just like want to check things off the list. And I definitely understand that want. One thing I really need to do is I might right now the inspection computer where my job list was supposed to be being run by our old desktop PC, and it's like for some reason I don't know what's wrong with it, but it just runs the fan 24/7, and so we ended up just turning it off. We were like, man, I can't listen. Like my mechanical sympathy is going off crazy because I just can't hear like this fan going off all day. Something is wrong. Um, so I think I might switch it out to a Raspberry Pi
okay,
because they, I can keep that much cooler and it's really low weight and like it's not like I am running anything but a web browser.
yeah,
Um, and then I might look into on Black Friday getting a TV like Easton to put out in the shop because I'm not in inspection all the time, and so being able to see the job list like while I'm out on the shop floor would be really nice.
right, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I need to get a TV up here, and visibility is just key, right? I mean, if you can't see it, you don't know what's going on. You don't know where stuff is. But if it's visible, you can kind of hold yourself accountable. So having a screen up, just I think even that in itself would probably improve flow. Um, yeah. So, all right, what else is going on over in your world?
So we are finishing up some. I think I talked about it last week. We a friend, an ex customer, dropped off a whole bunch of parts because he was going out of town. He was like, "Hey, I need you to finish this because I'm not going to be here and I want to meet my deadlines." And like, we ended up just being like, "Hey, we're not going to meet your deadlines either, but I can do my best." And so I need to finish up those this week, and then I've got some more titanium work to get out this next weekend. I've got a few more rush orders that just popped up, some stuff that's due like the week after Thanksgiving. So I want to get started on that early so that I'm not stressed over the holiday. Um, Overall, things are going really well. Like I feel like we're doing a pretty good job of diversifying and like bringing in some more customers this year, which has been a big goal of mine. Especially like seeing all these shops close up because commercial aerospace just took a dive. Um, it's really hit home how much we need to make sure that we're not stuck in one sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, diversification is key, and like you said, this really shows that. I mean, our parent company, right, Perryman, they produce titanium. They have since 1987. They're the fifth largest titanium producer in the world. So take titanium sponge and produce bar stock out of it, essentially. There's Perryman titanium in every commercial airliner that's flying today. Um, and that is their main industry. That's their main sector. And, coming out of 2019, things were absolutely booming. And, Perryman was just, I mean, we were doing great. It was gangbusters. And then, man, within 3 months, the wheels just fell off. Our division, our titanium division, has had to lay off over 200 people. And, it's a direct correlation to the aerospace industry. And we're really feeling it. And I mean, they're saying it could take 5+ years until we're back to where we were in 2019 as far as the aerospace industry goes. So, um, yeah, it really speaks to diversification. Now, we supply titanium to a few other industries as well, like medical, but nothing on the level of the aerospace industry. Like I said, I mean, we're in every aircraft that flies today, pretty much. So it's been a rough year for our company. It looks like maybe aerospace is starting to trend back upwards. I saw Airbus's stock has been slowly climbing since about May. So, but we're definitely not out of the woods. So it's going to be some tough times.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think um, Airbus in general is going to trend quite a bit more upward than Boeing, since like Boeing was not only hit by the 737 Max, but
Yeah.
then COVID hit. It was like the 1-2 punch. So
Yeah, I remember the 737 Max right at the end of last year was happening. So we had our end of year company meeting. Like, I think we'll be all right. It's they're working on it, whatever. And then, Jesus, then the wheels just fell off of 2020. It was like, uh, I don't know. I'm ready to bring
yeah.
back those killer Hornets they were talking about for like a week. Those seem to be. I would welcome those at this point. Let's bring them back. Get rid of the COVID thing and let's bring back the
Uh-huh.
Hornets.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you. It's been quite the year. Thankfully, it sounds like you guys are doing well. Actually, it sounds like you're doing gangbusters, and like I know, besides a few weeks of slowdown as it hit, we've been actually doing decently well. I don't think that I don't think we've done the percentage over last year that I was hoping to do. Like we've had a pretty steady percentage growth every year since we've opened.
Mm,
And like I was hoping to do that again this year, but like with everything, I think we've at least maintained a little bit of growth, and I'm happy with that. And we're still open, and so I'm just counting my lucky stars, and we're ready to get to 2021 and start kicking ass again.
yeah, I mean, given the circumstances, any growth this year is good. We're kind of in the same boat. We saw some surprising growth. I didn't, you know, and I think that's kind of the case. Even like Grimsmo making those high end knives. He was stressed at the beginning there, but it seems like there was maybe a little lull and that picked back up. So it's good. I mean, it's good to see these industries staying strong. At my full time job, medical has stayed extremely strong through this. Luckily, I haven't had to miss a day of work yet, so I've been fortunate there. But it's been a crazy year for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess we'll whichever side of the line you fall on as far as the election goes, and we don't need to get into that by any means, but it'll be interesting to see how this next 6 to 8 months plays out between COVID, vaccines, new president. It's kind of uncertain times, I'd say, but I think we'll all get through it in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no matter what, like I'm still making parts. I still got my shop. You still got your shop. You're still making parts, more parts than ever. I think that it's going to be next year will be better. It
Yeah,
has to be.
yeah.
So
There's not many ways you can go after this year, so hopefully up is the way we start trending here. Which, like you said, I think we will.
yeah. So since you are filling in for Payton, I always ask him the question every week. What were you researching this week?
I was going to try to beat you to it. So let's see. This week, I started digging into after reading the goal, just Eliyahu Goldrat's kind of life. I read his wiki story. I started reading. So, to be honest, I am halfway through your last episode. So I don't know how much you spoke about the book on the last episode, but I guess at the end of that edition of the book, there's the article "Standing on the Shoulders of Giants." I don't know if you spoke.
Hmm.
So I read that. Actually, I I discovered Audible for this book. I was really slacking on like I kept up with maybe the first assignment you guys threw out, and then it was like, oh my god, I don't have time to read. Well, then I discovered Audible, and I have like an hour round trip commute to work, and I freaking knocked it out after that. It was great. It's like it's nice too because like all the characters are played by different people, so it's like, man, I was really into it. I was digging it. So Audible is my new thing. So I guess you could say I researched Audible, but that was cool. And then just reading more about the Toyota method, and then more about theory of constraints. So I would say that was my main research this week, along with some macro variable stuff on the Haas.
Neat. Yeah, actually, Clive Murphy. Do you follow him on Instagram? Clive Murphy Brakeman is
No, I
his
don't.
Instagram.
No, I have to.
So he runs a big brake company in, I believe, South Africa, or I think it is. Um, but he actually went and studied under Eli Goldratt at the Goldratt Institute.
Oh man, that would be an
And so
experience.
yeah, so we're gonna try and have him on. He's swamped up for the next 6 months or something like that, but we're hoping sometime in January that we'll have him on because yeah, he said in 1996, I just found the post, at the age of 20 he went and studied under him, and so like that's kind of really steered his company, and he doesn't think that his company Power Break would be where it is without that. So it's gonna be epic to really kind of dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see. He follows me actually, so time to follow back. That's awesome. Um, yeah, to get some firsthand gold rat stories and experiences, that'd be crazy. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
then I also had never used Audible until this book, and I completely agree. Like, there are some books I've listened to on Audible so far that I'm like completely unimpressed with the narrator,
Mhm.
but the one for the goal is fantastic. Like, there's sound effects and music and
Oh yeah,
people, and it's super cool.
it was like a soap opera, like the whole time. Like, man, I felt like I was there. I felt like Julie was yelling at me because I wasn't coming home on time. It was the real deal.
Yeah, those parts of the book were a little too close to home sometimes.
Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my god, I can't tell my wife to read this book. She's gonna agree with everything.
Yeah, it was definitely close to home.
All right, what about
Um,
you? What are you researching?
so obviously, I was doing a bunch of research on the engine swap now that I'm doing with the car. I did a whole bunch of compressor research because we were also looking at like Quincy, and obviously I had to look at Kaiser and Atlas Copco. So I was kind of going through all of their offerings and finding which ones were comparable, and finding where my money is going to go the furthest. And I was doing a lot of research on lasers for work. Looking through a bunch of different companies. I contacted a few of them. Thankfully, people like Brandon and one of my customers has a Tecma as well, and so it was cool to kind of dive into that and become the local expert at my day job on lasers and what we're looking for. And then the last thing that I was looking at, I think I've been looking at this for a couple of weeks now, and I think I might pull the trigger on trying to figure it out, is a pie hole. And have you ever heard of that?
Uh, you're gonna have to explain quickly.
So a Pi hole is a Raspberry Pi you can set up on
Okay.
your network, and you run all of your network traffic through it, and it acts like a network wide ad blocker.
Okay.
And so you don't have to have any ad blocker on your computer or on your phone, and any app that you use on your phone additionally will, like, all of the apps on it or all of the ads on it will be blocked, because when it runs through the Pi hole, if it sees a
I'm sorry.
known,
I'm
I know,
sorry.
right?
I can't. Oh my gosh. You gotta call it something different.
So anyway, yeah, it blocks like everything on your network from reaching your phone or your laptop, and it's supposed to make things run faster because the ads never even get downloaded before they're blocked. Um, and a few people on the Discord had mentioned it because I was saying that, like, I wasn't using ad blockers for YouTube because I was having issues with the one I was using for a while. and a few people recommended that. So
Listen,
I've started looking into getting that done.
how the hell do you guys get anything done during the day? I'm in one of those discords. My phone is constantly blowing up with messages of. I mean, it's like all day. I chirp in
Yeah,
like
it is.
once a month maybe because I just don't have time. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like full blown conversations going on here. I do not understand. And then you guys have your own Discord. I haven't even joined it yet. I'm like, I don't even know if I have. I don't know if I have.
Gee, thanks, Jake. Why did I even invite you on the podcast?
I don't know. Well, tonight was it like you were to Payton, the last choice for hosting a podcast. Uh,
Yeah. I know.
Peyton batted
I'm
around.
always second best,
Yeah,
never first runner.
he batted around the block and then finally came back like, oh, try this dude out.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess I'll do. Um, yeah,
shit.
I keep it on mute most of the day because of the same thing. Like, I'll have my phone on my desk at work, and I work in a really like small, quiet office with two other guys. And if I don't mute it, or if I don't mute the Discord app, it just like buzzes nonstop, and they like are looking over like, who are you talking to? Like, why are you texting a million people all at once?
Yeah, and it's
But
like it's
but
not like Facebook where like I'm dying to jump in and like start into the conversation, but I know that it'll be like 3 hours later and I won't have accomplished anything and I'll still be on the same conversation. So as much as I want to join some of them, I'm like, oh my god, I can't do it.
yeah, it's definitely a big time suck. I've learned a lot, which is good. Like it's definitely not been a zero sum game so far. There's some really knowledgeable people on there, but yeah, if you don't pick and choose, like the nice thing is you can at least mute channels. Like I've muted a few of the manual machine ones or like the hobby machine ones. It's like, oh, I'll go check in on those from time to time, but I don't need up to date notifications on that by any means.
Yeah, well, I've noticed one thing like when you offer your own products and sell your own products, right now your customer base is huge and there's so many different avenues in which they can get in touch with you and ask questions, which I encourage and we do and we kind of pride ourselves on getting right back to people and answering people and being polite and trying to suit their needs. But man, I spend a lot of my day replying to customers' questions, inquiries. Hey, when are you going to have this back in stock? Which again, I'm not complaining by any means because without our customers, I wouldn't have what I have today. But it becomes a full time job and it's exhausting. But it's customer service and in the end of the day, it's worth it. But it's definitely work keeping up with all the emails, direct messages, everything. And then to add on top of that, the Discord, I'm like, I don't have time for any more social media. That's like everyone jumping on this parlor thing. I'm like, I'm going to skip this one.
Yeah, same. I was the second I saw that, I was like, man, I do not need another social media app. Like I'm good. That this is it. Instagram has its flaws, but you know what? I'm too invested here, and I'm not moving anywhere else.
Yeah, it's exhausting. So I don't even have room on my phone for another app. I don't think so.
Oh man. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think there's anything big at the shop that's been going on. Um, yeah, nothing. At least nothing I can share. Like, unfortunately, I'd say 80% of my work lately, if not more, has been all NDA work.
Yeah,
And so
I have some of
it's
that coming through as well. Now, one thing I don't know, you may have gone over it before. So your business partner Brad, right? He works a full time job, but he works a night shift then.
yeah. So he works 2 to midnight, 4 days a week.
Okay, is he in manufacturing as well outside of Proteum, or is he in another industry?
No, yeah, he's a shift lead. The company he works for makes um, like flow meters
Okay,
for gases. They're using everything from like NASA uses them down to like doctors' offices and things like that.
okay,
But they have their own internal machine shop and engineering and all that stuff in house, and so he's one of their shift leads.
okay. So what he gets off at midnight, sleeps, or does he go right to the shop, or does he sleep and then come to the shop, or
He sleeps and then sometimes comes in the morning. Like it varies so much. Like both of our schedules vary quite a bit. Like sometimes I'm there all night and he's there all day. And then there's sometimes where like I'll go in for an hour or two and get some stuff done and tell him, don't worry about it. Like I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on our current workload and what we want to get done.
That works out nice that he's on an off shift where, I mean, you guys can man Proteum and, for a good amount of the day. That works out pretty well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It does work. Like when we have larger production runs, it and by larger I mean like 40 or 50 parts. Um, it's really nice. Like when I had that titanium job I was messaging you about a while ago, the thread milling of the backside of this part was 45 minutes or something like that, and
Mhm.
so I would get as many done as I could at night, and then he would come in the next day and run them until he had to leave. And it's really nice being able to keep the spindle uptime up more than down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a nice balance. That's perfect. Yeah, I have my wife. She holds up her end most of the time.
So, what do you think has been the biggest struggle having Ashley come into the shop?
Uh, just getting her up to speed on things. Like obviously she's great at the photography stuff, but getting her up. I mean, it's hard going from not knowing a damn thing about manufacturing to then being forced to run high end CNC machines, and she doesn't know what a thou is or a tenth. Well, she does now, but she didn't, right? I mean, it's a whole nother
Right.
world when you get onto this kind of. I mean, she probably had only ever used a ruler or a tape measure prior to working in the shop, which is what most people have dealt with. So getting her up to speed on the tight tolerances, and then just uh, there's just so much to learn right out of the gate, especially when you're running both a mill and a lathe. The tooling, I mean, it took me 3 months to get up to speed on lathe tooling because none of it makes sense at all. I hate the acronyms. I hate everything about lathe tooling. Um, like CCMT,
It does
DCM.
seem like a secret code,
Yeah,
like that once you know, but like otherwise you're like, oh, that's that doesn't make any sense.
yeah. Inscribed circle, CCMT, DCMT, CNMG. I'm like, I don't know what this means. There's like charts out there that all these freaking things mean. I was like, ugh. And then it does not help that seemingly all of the lathe tooling websites are terrible. Like Kennametal, Sandvik, um, Iscar's okay, but it's just like it's so hard to find. I've ordered the wrong tool so many times, which is so frustrating. It's just it's a night. And then left-handed tools, right-handed tools, right? Which one do you need? I don't know. A left-handed holder needs a right-handed insert. Why? I don't know, because that's what Kennametal says for their top-notch shit. So it's like
Oh my goodness.
it's deep to
Yeah,
learn that.
I think that that's pretty much like across the industry though, is like terrible websites. Like I've been looking at end mills the last couple days to accomplish a specific task, like just finding a extended reach half-inch end mill, and like you go to most of these sites and like there's no option for extended reach, and so like you have to try to filter by other things that an extended reach end mill might have, and then like look through pictures and shit until
Yep.
like finally it pops up maybe. It's just it like I don't understand why so many people are so bad at filtering data. Like they should know what goes into like choosing a tool.
Yep.
I would expect at least some of the people. Like you can't tell me that GWS's applications engineers have never picked out a tool before. But you go to their website and like, man, you want to look for an illuminator? You got to know that it's the 1015 series, and then all the pictures look the same. And finding the frickin' end mill I want takes 30 minutes. Like
Yep.
it's just so dumb.
You ever tried to order a tool from Mitsubishi or find a tool you want from Mitsubishi?
Oh, or speeds and feeds.
Yeah, good luck.
Mitsubishi is terrible.
It's terrible. I like their tools, but yeah, it's awful. I will say, and again, not to sound like a fanboy, maybe I am. Harvey and Helical and Micro 100, their websites are by far the best tooling websites on the internet. I mean, because they do exactly what you just said. You can filter, you can search, the names make sense. There's nice pictures. Their feeds and speeds calculator is good. It's like if everyone needs to take a page out of their book, or everyone needs to make all of their websites look like McMaster-Carr, because that would be cool too.
Yeah, yeah. Just give me all the filters. I'd rather have too many filters than not enough filters.
Yeah, and like even MSC tries to filter, but it's like not great at filtering. It is frustrating.
MSC is another place I was looking for that extended reach end mill. It's like, just give me an extended reach yes or no filter. Like, I have to search half-inch extended reach end mill in the search box to even find all the extended reach end mills.
Yeah,
Like,
but they put the
this is
dumbest
not a
they
uncommon thing.
they put the dumbest shit over there sometimes too. Like you can filter by things that you would never need to filter by. Like I can't even give a good example, but like I don't know. Like it seems like when you need something over there, it's not. But all the ridiculous stuff that you would never need is over there.
Right. Yeah. It'll be like the marking on the tool is on the right or left side.
Yeah,
Like something stupid like that. Like, you're like, man, I don't care, but I need to find this tool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or
it's incredibly frustrating.
you can filter by like 3/4 inch, like the fraction, or 0.750, and then they'll bring up different results, and there's different numbers available for those two things. Like, come on.
Oh, and you know what my biggest gripe about MSC is, and maybe I'm the only one who, maybe it's my computer or my browser, but I always find that their box or their, scroll down boxes where you're looking for a size or whatever, they don't scroll evenly, so you actually skip choices in there. Like,
Yes.
sometimes it's hard for me to actually get to the one that I need to, because I'll scroll down one click and it's too far, and I'll scroll up one click and it's too far, and it's somehow just lost in this middle nether world that I can't access.
Yeah, I think it's the same on my computer as well. It's frustrating. MSC isn't the worst one, but it's definitely frustrating. So, real quick,
Yeah,
while we're on the topic of frustrating software, how's Fusion treating you lately?
it hasn't been too bad, actually.
I noticed it.
Um,
It
I
changed overnight a couple nights ago, and like things are different now. Like I feel like NC programs have changed a little bit as far as like the graphical user interface.
So that is something I don't use, and again, top level technical stuff that I need to set up. Um, I've played with it a little bit because for a while, every other update on Fusion would break my post for my TC, and the only way I could get it to post was to create an NC program. Um, but I have not set them up for my machines like I should, and I really need to get that done. One thing that I have noticed on the newest update that's fantastic is the template, like, GUI now. Like, rather than just having like a drop down with all your templates, like there's an actual like window that pops up with all your templates, and you can edit them and resave over them, which has always been just a giant pain. So I'm super happy about that.
I admittedly haven't even done a thing with templates yet, and I should, but I just haven't. But the NC programs is something I've used since
Finally win one. Yes.
I've used NC programs since the because NC programs, that is like a direct carryover from PowerMill. They brought that over from PowerMill, so I use it every day. So I jumped on that bandwagon early, and I do like NC programs. But like I said, it seems to have just changed recently, and then fusion turning is a little bit rough to say the least. You probably don't deal with that too much, but it's rough, man. It's rough.
I've done a little bit in HSM Works at work, and yeah, it's not it doesn't feel like a fully fledged release of a software on that side. Like, it definitely feels a lot more beta y on the
Yeah.
turning side.
Now I'm in the like the Autodesk customer advisory board cab, the Slack room. So there's some good things happening. Like they brought all of the part maker development team in to kind of help with the turning side of Fusion. So it's getting a lot better. But man, it's rough. Like they finally kind of got like regular OD turning somewhat under control, and you start to go to like do grooving or anything like that. It's rough to say the least. All right, what about new tool library? Yay or nay?
Oh, I immediately reverted to the old one.
You can
I
can
complained
still
about
get
it
it.
for about a week. So far, I believe you can. It's in the preferences,
Yeah, I'm not a big fan
because
either.
I couldn't stand it. I think it just looks terrible. Like I love the new functionality. What sucks is when you roll it back to the old version, you lose the functionality of having different feeds and speeds sets
Hmm.
per tool. But man, it was so ugly to look at. I couldn't stand it. And the second I found out I could roll it back, I was like, "Yep, doing that," because I can't find a tool when I need it, and I can't build a tool when I need it, and like this just. And there is a post. I don't know if they've patched this not yet or not, but like there is a post somewhere where you can actually edit the code behind the window that pops up with the tool library and like change the text font, and you can put lines between the categories and stuff, so you can make it look a lot better. And I've thought about doing that because having the parameter sets would be really nice per end mill. But yeah, it just I could not believe how bad it is. um
Yeah,
it's like they didn't give it to anybody and ask them. Well, and they did. They put it in preview, and from what I've heard, everybody categorically was like, "This looks terrible. Fix it." And they were like, "Nah, you guys like it. Here you go."
yeah, it's grotesque to look at, to be honest. And like, I, it's to me, it's really slow too. Like it slows down. Like it takes like a couple seconds to even open up the tool library. And I think that's probably because I have like the helical library in there and maybe the Harvey library, so it takes it a while to open up. But the old one never used to do that. And then they have like when you're building a tool, if you hover over any of the fields for more than like a tenth of a second, this giant flyout pops out at you, and it's like all this useless information like system default tool underscore type equals probe 5 millimeter tool type equals tapered mill, like, and it's like this box that covers everything up. And like I've bitched about it in the Slack room, and here it is still. It's like I don't understand. It's just a bunch of useless information. I don't know. I do like you said, being able to set different feeds and speeds for different same tool, different materials, things like that. That's in the right direction, but man, it needs some work.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they should have incrementally moved away from, or like improved upon what they had, and added boxes for the new parameter sets rather than being like a ground up refresh. Or at least just take into advice like what people said about it, because yeah, I don't know many people who like it. I know a few people who are indifferent to it, but like it's just a step back as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. The other thing I don't like, and I found this the other day, is like if you're in NC programs, out to the right you have all your post properties where you can like, that's where I pick like my macro stuff and my sub program stuff. But if you're like in there, I mean, there's just like you can enter like different variables, so it's just a bunch of user entries depending on what post you use. But if you have like a numeric value in there, and you click in that box and then accidentally scroll, it starts to like increment whatever you're doing in there. So like for instance, I have subroutine number start to be 9,000 right now, and if I accidentally scroll, I'm like down to 8,615 without even knowing it. So it's like a I don't know. I don't like my center wheel being able to like change very important things.
I think somebody on Instagram also had brought that up, and it seems like some weird behavior, because as far as I can tell, it doesn't happen anywhere else in Fusion.
Yeah, I just checked. It doesn't do it like in the toolpath. It's only in NC programs, which is odd.
Yeah, I just brought up a toolpath to check too. So I am surprised that. Yeah, my guess is that that's just part of the coding that like just need to turn off.
Yeah. What
It is
about
a little strange.
manufacturing extension? You have it or no?
I don't. I nearly bought it when it was on this last sale, but like I said, currently the stock brother post doesn't support any of the fancy probing or anything like that. So currently, the only thing I'd probably use is trim toolpath, which, to be fair, is a pretty neat feature.
Yeah,
Um,
it's straight out
but
of Power as well, and it's actually way more useful in Power Mode. I think they're bringing a lot of that over. So um, eventually, you should be able to like create a sketch and with geometry, and then trim to that sketch rather than just like drawing a random polygon or square or whatever the heck you draw around it now. Which I use toolpath trimming all the time, which I'm glad to see it's coming over. But they used to have like delete toolpath or delete segment under here, and I made some toolpaths and on my razor parts, and then I came and I had to delete a couple segments because it didn't give me what I liked. And then I came back yesterday to regenerate it, and it won't let me regenerate it because that is no longer an option. So I can't delete segment anymore, and I also couldn't regenerate that toolpath. So that was cool.
Oh wow, that's definitely a bug right there.
Yeah, and I don't know if they stuck it in the manufacturing extension, and now it's all under trim. But there used to be like a delete segment option that didn't have the extension icon. And like I said, I used it for about 3 toolpaths, and then yesterday it was gone. So I had to come up with a different toolpath.
That's frustrating for sure. Yeah, the
Yes,
other thing that I've wanted to try out that I haven't yet is the manual inspection
yeah,
and like creating an inspection document.
I've played with that a little bit, and that is actually very useful. And there's, I mean, there's a lot of expensive software out there that does that. So it's nice that you're able to do that and create inspection reports. So I did mess with that, and that's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit more. All right, what's your take on steep and shallow? I know you haven't used it probably, but what do you?
So I did use it actually during when it was free. What 8 months ago or something like that. At the beginning of COVID, they made all the extensions free for a little while. Remember? And I played around with it a little bit there. It's pretty neat. Like it, I think with the right settings and the right defaults, it's like the easy button.
Okay.
It might not be the best toolpath. It might not be the best looking toolpath, but like it'll get it done in one click. It's kind of like 3D adaptive in that way.
Yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on it as well. And like, I think my opinion is probably the unpopular opinion that like I don't know. It seemed everyone was like crazy. Steep and shallow. It's awesome. You can do all kinds of stuff. And like I have had steep and shallow in Power Mill for like years, and I've never used it because, like you said, it is the easy button. So it can get you a quick and dirty finishing toolpath that will probably give you a decent result. But I don't know. I almost prefer to have more control over a more local toolpath and then break it up. But I guess it has its place. I know like die mold shops use it a lot, but I don't know how many guys are using Fusion and also making die molds. Payton probably, but that was about it. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I kind
Like
of
I think that for job shop work, it makes more sense than it does for like something like your like you want to tailor your toolpath so that it is not only the most efficient but looks the best and results in like the absolute best finished part. Where like for me, I can understand using it if I'm like, oh man, I gotta surface this part of this part. Easy button. All right, now I can make my one off, and like I don't care really what the toolpath looks like, or if it's not as efficient as it could be because it's done.
that's true. I haven't. I guess I didn't never really looked at it in that aspect because I was always kind of a production. My parts. I need to get a good looking toolpath with good finish. Not necessarily good finish, but aesthetically pleasing as well. Um, so I kind of wish. I mean, it seems like they're dumping a lot of effort into that toolpath, like giving it all the 5-axis tip or all the 5-axis tricks and tool orientation and all the fancy stuff. Where I'd rather see that come into some of the others, like I don't know, Swarf or Parallel or things like that that are I don't know a little bit more specific. But I think all in all,
Yeah.
um,
Or
Fusion's heading the right way, but there's some frustrating bumps along the way.
yeah, I think it's like the same problems that we've had or I've had with it since the beginning of me using it. Is like it's hard. Like it updates so quickly, and we get used to it updating so quickly that we forget that there's like a whole host of other types of users, like people not even using manufacturer, and they're just using drawings, or they're just using simulation, or they're just using uh, additive or something like that. And so like every time a update drops and it doesn't fix my gripe, I'm like, oh, what the hell? And then I'm like, oh, well, there's probably like 40,000 emails that they've gotten in the last update cycle, and 30,000 of them are not about manufacturing.
Right? I mean,
Um,
something
so
about generative or
it,
simulation, like you said, or whatever. But yeah, no, I get that. That's true. And again, don't take this as me complaining by any means, because there is no other software out there at this price point that has this capability. So, not complaining, just the standard bitches and moans. But I'll continue to use it, and then I'll continue to pay for it too.
oh, same. Yeah, I will continue to pay for it. I will continue to bitch about it. And I'll continue to use it because, like you said, yeah, there's nothing at all out there, and like I'm not doing crazy 5 axis stuff. I've heard that NX or Power Mill, or there's a lot of things out there that are significantly better than Fusion for that kind of stuff. But man, I mean, I'm looking forward to getting a fourth, and like Fusion will take me easily through using a fourth on my brother.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's
Yep.
I'm not worried about changing softwares at that point.
No, and like I said, I've kind of seen the roadmap of Fusion, and they're pulling a ton of Power Mill functionality into it over the next couple years, which is good to see. So I mean, all that advanced 5 axis that software like NX and Power Mill are good at, it's slowly going to trickle in. Now it'll of course trickle in behind the manufacturing extension. So at some point I'll pull the trigger on that extension, but like you, I don't. It's not worth it to me yet. I don't need steep and shallow, and I don't really use the probing inspection stuff just yet. That would be the only thing I'd purchase it for. Would be the probing inspection and the trim toolpath, like you said. But right now, I can't justify it. So, but I'm sure at some point I will.
Yeah, yeah. I have a feeling that I had heard that the post was being updated for the brother so that it could take advantage of all of the in process checking and recutting and all of that. And I've hand coded that stuff before, so I know how to do it. But like, man, if my post could do it, I'd probably pay the money per year so that I could just post it out of Fusion and automatically check my part before I even walk over there.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll get there. It's just it'll take time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well,
Well,
I don't have anything else on my end. I got some. As soon as I get off here, I got some parts to blast and passivate, and I got a bit of a night ahead of me yet. So
Well, yeah, let me not take up any more of your time. Thank you again for subbing in for Peyton. I know he appreciates it too. I'm sure he got a lot more done tonight than either of us did. But again, thanks so much for joining me. Definitely, everybody look for Peyton and I back on next week, and we will also be starting our next book, which is Traction. Well, thanks, Jake. Have a great night.
thank you.